Ladies and gentlemen, a divine shift has already begun in the spiritual realm, and 17 November marks the moment it manifests in the natural. Long before you sensed anything, long before your circumstances began to shake, heaven had already initiated a movement on your behalf. Spiritual shifts do not begin with signs you can see. They begin with whispers from God, with alignments in the unseen realm, with divine rearrangements that humans cannot detect until the moment of revelation. What you are feeling now is the echo of what has already been decided in heaven. There are seasons when God allows stillness, but there are also seasons when he disrupts that stillness to bring his people into a place of divine momentum. You have stepped into such a season. For weeks, maybe months, you felt an unusual stirring. Something felt different, though you couldn't fully define it. It was as if something inside you refused to settle, refused to be comfortable, refused to accept things the way they were. That inner restlessness was not frustration. It was spiritual awakening. God was preparing your spirit to recognize the shift before it becomes visible. When heaven prepares to release something significant, he often first stirs the hearts of his people so they do not mistake the coming breakthrough for coincidence or good luck. He wants you to know it is him, and him alone, orchestrating what is about to unfold. This shift is not random. It is strategic. It is targeted. It has timing attached to it. And 17 November is not just a date. It is a divine marker. It is the boundary line between what was and what will be. God often appoints set times for release. And while the waiting season may seem quiet or uneventful, that is when he is working the hardest behind the scenes. The spiritual realm has already been active. Angels assigned, obstacles removed, pathways cleared, blessings prepared, and opportunities positioned. What you call delay is often heaven preparing the exact moment when everything aligns for maximum impact. And now the appointed time is near. You may have noticed that circumstances intensified as this moment approached. The enemy always senses divine movement before humans do. That is why attacks increased, why confusion tried to cloud your mind, why discouragement tried to settle in your heart. The enemy wanted you weary before the breakthrough. He wanted you distracted before the shift. He wanted you doubtful so you could not recognize what heaven is about to release. But even the opposition was proof that the shift is real. Greater battles always precede greater blessings. The attack was not a sign that God was absent. It was a sign that something powerful was coming. In the spiritual realm, seasons change before they ever change in your life. God has already turned the page. The chapter you were struggling in has already closed, even though you may still feel the residue of the previous season. The moment the spiritual shift happens, everything connected to your destiny begins to realign itself. People who are meant to exit start pulling away. Situations that no longer serve your calling begin to break. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin moving toward you, and obstacles that looked immovable suddenly lose their power. What you will see after 17 November is the natural catching up to what heaven has already completed. This shift is also personal. It is not just about outward blessings, but inner transformation. God has been enlarging your spirit, stretching your faith, deepening your reliance on him. He has been preparing you to handle what he is about to release. There are blessings that require a stronger foundation, and God has been building that inner strength in silence. You may have felt alone, misunderstood, or hidden, but that hiddenness was God's way of shaping you for the next level. Before every divine manifestation, God always prepares the vessel, and you are that vessel. The significance of 17 November lies in divine timing. It is the moment when the invisible becomes visible, when what was promised becomes tangible, when what you carried in hope becomes something you can actually touch. The spiritual shift that has already happened means that heaven's decision has been made. What is written in the spiritual realm cannot be cancelled by earthly circumstances. This is why your spirit feels an urgency, a holy anticipation, a quiet assurance that something is drawing near. You are not imagining it, you are discerning it. Everything God has been doing, every delay, every redirection, every closed door, was part of positioning you for this moment. You are about to witness the unfolding of something that was settled long ago. Heaven has moved, and now the earth must respond. The spiritual shift guarantees that whatever unfolds after 17 November is not a random blessing, but a divinely orchestrated manifestation of God's plan for your life. The battles and pressures you faced recently were signs of a coming break through the enemy tried to resist. Many people misinterpret seasons of intense struggle, thinking it means something is wrong, something has failed, or God has turned away. But in reality, great pressure is often the final signal that something powerful is about to be released. When spiritual tension rises, when conflicts appear suddenly, when unexpected burdens fall on your shoulders, it is usually because the enemy has sensed movement in the heavenly realm long before you do. He cannot stop what God decided, but he tries to exhaust you before the manifestation arrives. That is why your recent challenges were not random. They were indicators of something being birthed. You may have felt moments where everything seemed to collide at once. Financial strain intensified, relationships became tense, prayers felt heavy, and your emotions fluctuated without explanation. This was not chaos, it was spiritual resistance. Whenever heaven prepares a breakthrough, the enemy increases his attacks to create confusion, doubt, and discouragement. His strategy is simple. If he cannot access your future, he will attempt to weaken your faith so you abandon the path before you reach what God has set before you. The intensity of your recent battles is proof that a major shift is approaching, because the enemy always fights the hardest when he knows he is losing ground. There are times when you prayed and received no immediate answer, not because God ignored you, but because spiritual warfare had increased. The enemy attempted to cloud your mind with lies, telling you that God was silent, uninterested, or distant. But silence is not absence. Silence is strategy. During spiritual pressure, God strengthens what is inside you. He teaches endurance, perseverance, and spiritual resilience. These battles are not meant to break you, they are meant to shape you. The enemy wanted you to give up because he knows the moment you endure, you step into a level of blessing he can no longer block. Some of your struggles came from unexpected directions. People you trusted suddenly acted differently. Opportunities slipped away. Plans were disrupted. The enemy manipulated circumstances to distract you. Yet even these disruptions were used by God to divert you from wrong paths and prepare you for something greater. Sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes delay is redirection. Sometimes disappointment is God rerouting you toward a blessing far bigger than what you were originally pursuing. The enemy wanted you to interpret these things as failure, but heaven intended them as preparation. Your emotional battles were also part of the resistance. The enemy tried to wear you down internally because he knows that if he can affect your emotions, he can influence your decisions. You may have felt waves of anxiety, sudden discouragement, unexplained sadness, or spiritual heaviness. This was spiritual pressure manifesting in the soul, but even in those moments you were not alone. Something inside you refused to quit. That inner strength was not human, it was the Holy Spirit sustaining you. Every time you felt weak but kept moving, every time you felt tired but still prayed, every time you felt overwhelmed but didn't give up, you demonstrated that the enemy's attacks failed. The pressure you faced also served a deeper purpose. It revealed what needed to be strengthened within you. During battles, God exposes weak areas not to shame you, but to fortify you. He uses pressure to refine your character, sharpen your discernment, and activate spiritual authority you didn't realize you had. The enemy hoped the pressure would crush you, but instead it elevated your spiritual strength. Many times, the very situations meant to destroy you became the platforms that built you. What felt like a breaking point was actually a building point. There is another reason the battles intensified. The enemy sensed heavenly movement. When God releases angels, aligns circumstances, and prepares doors to open, the spiritual realm becomes active. Darkness trembles when heaven advances. The enemy has no power to cancel God's plan, but he does attempt to delay or distract. This is why right before a breakthrough, people often experience confusion, spiritual fatigue, misunderstandings, and unexpected chaos. It is not because things are falling apart. It is because things are falling into place. The enemy is fighting what he knows he cannot stop. Think about the moments when you felt like quitting. Those were the very moments the enemy hoped to overpower your spirit. But you are still here. You are still standing, and your survival is not accidental. Every attack you endured was a prophetic sign that something valuable is coming. Diamonds form under pressure. Oil comes from crushing. Gold is purified through fire, and destinies are unlocked through seasons of intense spiritual resistance. Your battles were not punishment. They were preparation for what is unfolding next. If the enemy fought you this hard, it is because he saw what you could not yet see. He saw the blessing approaching. He saw the favor being released. He saw the opportunity forming. He saw the door opening, and he tried, fiercely, to wear you out before you reached it. But he failed. You pressed through the storm. You prayed through the nights. You held on even when it hurt. And heaven has recorded every tear, every prayer, every moment of perseverance. The battles were signs. The pressure was confirmation. The resistance was proof that breakthrough is near. A new window of opportunity, clarity, and acceleration will open immediately after 17 November. This is not just a shift of days on a calendar. It is a shift of seasons in the Spirit. There are moments when God moves slowly, teaching you patience, building your endurance, allowing you to grow layer by layer. But there are also moments when God moves suddenly, when he compresses time, shortens processes, and accelerates what once took years into months or even days. After 17 November, you will begin to notice this acceleration. Things that felt stuck will begin to flow. Prayers that felt unanswered will suddenly unfold. Instructions that once felt unclear will become simple, direct, and unmistakable. A window of opportunity is part of God's divine timing. It is a period where heaven aligns circumstances in your favor and opens doors that were firmly shut. This window will bring opportunities that may not have existed before. People will come into your life who were not available in previous seasons. Resources that seemed distant or unreachable will move closer. Ideas that were buried or dormant will come alive with fresh energy. You will feel inspired in ways you haven't for a long time, not because you are trying harder, but because the wind of God is at your back, pushing you into places that once required extreme effort. With opportunity comes clarity. Many of your past seasons felt confusing because you were in transition. When God transitions you, he rarely reveals the full picture. Instead, he gives glimpses, impressions, and small steps of obedience. That's why you felt uncertain at times. You were walking without a complete map. But after 17 November, clarity will begin to settle in your spirit like a rising dawn. You will see why certain things happened the way they did. You will understand why God removed certain relationships and allowed certain challenges. You will recognize how He was positioning you all along. Confusion will lift and direction will become unmistakably clear. Clarity is one of the greatest gifts God gives His people. When your mind is clear, decisions become easier. When your spirit is clear, peace becomes natural. When your path is clear, your pace accelerates. This clarity will not come through your own reasoning, but through spiritual revelation. God will speak to you in ways that resonate deeply. Ideas will come at unexpected moments. Solutions will appear where you once saw problems. You will feel a new confidence rising, not rooted in yourself, but rooted in the assurance that God is guiding you. Acceleration is another sign of this new window. There are seasons when progress feels slow because God is training your character. But once your character aligns with His purpose, acceleration begins. You will see movement in areas that felt stagnant. Projects will advance quickly. Plans will unfold naturally. Conversations that were delayed will suddenly resume. You will meet people who carry answers to prayers you prayed long ago. What once took great effort will now require less strain because God's hand will push you forward. This acceleration is not random. It is the manifestation of everything God has been aligning behind the scenes. Sometimes God holds back momentum until the right moment, so that when He releases it, nothing can interfere. The moment after 17 November is such a time. You may not see the full picture immediately, but you will sense momentum rising. You will feel as though something within you has awakened. You will notice doors opening, ideas flowing, and strength returning. What felt heavy will feel lighter. What felt distant will draw near. This window of opportunity is also purposeful. God does not open doors for convenience, but for destiny. He positions you where you need to be in order to fulfill what He has placed inside you. That is why, in this season, certain desires of your heart will start to resurface. Dreams you thought you had outgrown will return with new clarity. Gifts you have ignored will begin to stir, and passions that once felt impossible will now feel achievable. This is not coincidence. It is the timing of God bringing you into alignment with what He planned long ago. You may also notice divine connections forming. Some people will enter your life carrying keys you didn't know you needed. They will bring perspective, opportunity, and wisdom. Others will leave your life because they cannot walk with you into this new level. Do not be alarmed by these shifts. Divine pruning always precedes divine promotion. God removes what cannot survive the next season so that you are free to move without unnecessary weight. In this new window, your sensitivity to God's voice will increase. You will find yourself recognizing His guidance more easily. Decisions that once brought anxiety will now carry peace. You will feel a strong pull toward certain steps and a gentle restraint from others. This is God directing you with precision. He is not just giving you opportunity. He is giving you discernment to steward it well. Acceleration also means upgrades. God will upgrade your thinking, your confidence, your surroundings, and your expectations. He will stretch your capacity to believe for more, not because you are ambitious, but because He is preparing you for blessings larger than what you prayed for. This upgrade of mindset is essential because the opportunities coming require a stronger version of you. The window that opens after 17 November is significant because it ushers in a new rhythm of grace. You will accomplish more with less stress. You will see progress without forcing it. You will walk into favor that you did not earn but were chosen to carry. And above all, you will know in your heart that this was the moment God chose to reveal what he had been preparing all along. What was delayed, blocked, or stagnant will begin to move with supernatural ease and divine favor. There are seasons in life where it feels as if every step forward meets resistance, every good intention meets a barrier, and every prayer seems to press against an invisible wall. You try to progress, but doors remain closed. You try to advance, but nothing responds. You plant seeds, yet no harvest appears. These are not wasted seasons. They are seasons where God is working in hidden places, rearranging timing, aligning people, and preparing the right environment for the promise to unfold. Delay is never denial when God is involved. What has felt delayed in your life has simply been protected by divine timing. Blockages often appear when God is preventing you from stepping into something too soon. Sometimes he withholds opportunities not because you are unprepared, but because others connected to your destiny are not yet in position. What feels like stagnation is often synchronization. Heaven waits until every detail aligns so that when the blessing arrives, it comes with completeness, stability, and longevity. The enemy tries to convince you that delay means defeat, but in truth, delay often means God is building a stronger foundation beneath you. He knows that a blessing given too early can become a burden, so he positions everything with precision before he releases what he promised. The stagnation you felt was not because of lack of ability or lack of potential. It was because God was protecting your momentum from being wasted. There are places where he would not allow you to go because they could not sustain your growth. There are people he would not allow you to depend on because they could not walk with you into the next season. There are plans he did not allow to succeed because they were too small for the destiny he designed for you. What felt like life standing still was actually God preventing you from stepping into a version of your future that was beneath your calling. But there comes a time when heaven shifts the atmosphere and what was stuck begins to move without effort. This is the nature of divine timing. When God decides that the season of waiting is over, things that resisted you begin to yield. Obstacles lose their power, delays suddenly break. What once required intense effort becomes easy. This ease is not because the situation changed on its own, but because God's favor entered the equation. Favor accelerates what effort cannot accomplish. Favor opens doors that strategy cannot force open. Favor causes people to help you without knowing why. Favor makes resources appear at the right moment. After 17 November, you will begin to witness this ease operating in your life. There is a supernatural flow that comes when God removes the blockages. Ideas will come effortlessly. Solutions will present themselves. Conversations will lead to unexpected opportunities. Decisions you once struggled with will become clear. Even your emotions will feel lighter. The heaviness you carried will begin to lift. The weariness in your spirit will begin to fade. You will feel as if something inside you has been unlocked. That internal freedom is the first sign that the external shift has begun. When God moves the spiritual blockage, the natural circumstances must follow. Supernatural ease does not mean lack of effort. It means lack of resistance. You will still walk, but the path will smooth itself out. You will still work, but the results will multiply. You will still plan, but the plans will align with grace. When God breathes on something, it becomes fruitful without the stress or strain you once experienced. You will look at situations that once frustrated you and see them unfolding with peace. You will realize that what once took months now takes days, and what once took years now takes weeks. This is the acceleration that comes when the hand of God is actively clearing your path. Divine favor will also bring restoration in areas you thought were permanently damaged. Relationships that were strained may begin to heal. Opportunities you lost may return in a better form. Things that slipped through your fingers may come back multiplied. When God restores, He never returns things in the same condition. He improves them, strengthens them, and aligns them with your destiny. The season ahead carries restoration because what was delayed was not meant to disappear. It was meant to return at the right time with greater power. You will also notice that your confidence begins to rise. Not because everything around you suddenly becomes perfect, but because your spirit recognizes that something has shifted in your favor. There will be an inner assurance, a quiet knowing that what once opposed you no longer has authority. This inner confidence is a sign that heaven has already moved on your behalf. When God goes before you, every barrier must move. When His presence surrounds you, every blockage must surrender. Stagnation will turn into motion, and motion will turn into momentum. You will find yourself stepping into opportunities that feel tailor-made for you. You will encounter people who speak life into your purpose. You will make decisions with clarity instead of confusion. You will walk with strength instead of hesitation. Every part of your life that felt frozen will begin to thaw under the warmth of God's timing. Every area that felt unproductive will begin to blossom. Every dream that felt distant will begin to rise again with new possibility. The shift from delay to divine ease is one of the most profound transitions a person can experience. It reminds you that you were never forgotten, never overlooked, never abandoned. God was working when you could not see Him. He was preparing when you could not feel Him. He was aligning when everything looked still. And now the season has come where what He prepared will begin to unfold with grace, speed, and supernatural favor. What God is bringing in this season will reveal why certain doors closed, why certain people left, and why certain directions suddenly shifted when you thought you were moving correctly. There are moments when you look back and wonder why things didn't work out, why opportunities slipped away, or why people you trusted suddenly walked out of your life. At the time, those moments felt painful, confusing, and even unfair. You questioned yourself, questioned your decisions, and perhaps even questioned whether God had forgotten you. Yet now, as you stand on the edge of a divine unfolding, you will begin to see the purpose behind every closed door and every unexpected change. There are times when God must remove what is familiar so He can bring what is destined. Not everything you lost was a loss. Some of it was rescue. Some of it was protection. Some of it was God clearing out the old so He could bring in the new. When you prayed for wisdom, He didn't just give you clearer thoughts. He rearranged your environment. When you prayed for guidance, He didn't simply tell you where to go. He shifted the paths beneath your feet. When you prayed for breakthrough, He didn't always open doors. Sometimes He closed them so you would not step into places that couldn't sustain the blessing He had prepared. People leaving your life was not always abandonment. Many times it was divine separation. There are individuals who served a purpose in one season but cannot walk with you into the next. Some people were tied to your pain, not your promise. Others were connected to your past, but not your future. Some relationships were draining your strength, distracting your focus, or limiting your vision, and God removed them because He saw what you could not see. Their departure made room for voices that will lift you, environments that will grow you, and relationships that will strengthen your destiny. There were also directions you pursued that seemed right at the time. You followed opportunities that looked promising. You invested your energy into plans that felt secure. Yet suddenly, without warning, Things shifted, doors closed, plans collapsed, opportunities dried up. You didn't understand it then, but it was God redirecting you from routes that would have led to exhaustion, disappointment, or spiritual compromise. His no was not rejection, it was redirection. Every closed path was a shield protecting you from walking into places that were beneath what he designed for you. You may have felt frustrated when things didn't go as planned, but now you will understand why. God does not build your destiny on unstable foundations. He removes what cannot withstand the weight of your calling. When God closes a door, he is not punishing you. He is positioning you. And soon you will see that every shut door was a setup for a better one. The blessing coming into your life requires space, alignment, and maturity, and he orchestrated all three by removing what would have hindered you. The redirections you faced were not accidental, they were necessary. Every time you felt pulled away from something familiar, it was because God was guiding you towards something greater. He does not allow comfort to override calling. When he knows your purpose requires growth, he disrupts complacency. When he knows your future requires elevation, he unsettles your present. These disruptions felt inconvenient, but they were essential for your transformation. You could not stay where you were and reach where God wanted to take you. Looking back, you may realize that if certain people had stayed, they would have held you back. If certain opportunities had opened, they would have distracted you. If certain plans had succeeded, they would have prevented you from stepping into higher levels of blessing. God knew what you did not know. He saw what you could not see. He understood what you could not understand at the moment. And now, as things begin to unfold after 17 November, you will witness the wisdom of his timing. This season ahead will make sense of what felt senseless. You will see purpose in your pain. You will see alignment in your losses. You will see growth in your delays. You will understand that nothing was wasted. Even the moments that broke your heart carried seeds of your elevation. Even the disappointments contained the redirection that would lead you into destiny. Even the tears you cried were watering the ground for what God is about to bring forth. There were many times when you tried to force things to work, but God didn't allow them to. Not because he didn't want you to succeed, but because he wanted you to succeed in the right place. There were relationships you tried to hold on to, but they slipped out of your hands. There were plans you tried to revive, but they couldn't be restored. God was removing what was temporary so he could replace it with what is eternal. He was taking away what was fragile so he could give you what is secure. He was stripping away what was small so he could prepare you for what is great. Soon you will see that what God brings will answer every question, calm every fear, and heal every disappointment. What he is preparing carries a magnitude that the things you lost could never match. The blessings ahead will reveal that every delay was divine strategy, every disappointment was divine protection, and every closed door was divine mercy. The season you are entering will illuminate everything that once confused you, and you will finally understand the wisdom behind God's timing, and his rearranging of your journey. Expectation, faith, and spiritual readiness are required, because God is releasing something greater than what you prayed for. When a believer stands before God with an open heart, heaven begins to respond in ways that the natural mind cannot grasp. Expectation is not just positive thinking. It is the inner posture of a spirit that believes God is moving even when nothing in the physical realm has shifted. It is the quiet conviction that something divine is already unfolding behind the scenes, long before the evidence appears. When expectation rises, it creates a spiritual atmosphere where miracles can be conceived, birthed, and manifested. God often works in silence, yet those who wait with holy expectation can sense his footsteps, his breath, his whisper, even before the miracle arrives. This kind of expectation is a form of worship, because it says to God, I trust you enough to believe you are working, even when I cannot see anything changing. A faith, on the other hand, is the power that keeps you standing when the waiting becomes long and the trials become heavy. True faith does not grow in comfort. It grows in tension, in uncertainty, in the gap between the promise and the fulfillment. When God is preparing to release something greater than what you prayed for, he often enlarges your faith first. He stretches your belief so that your heart can handle the magnitude of what he is about to do. Many pray small prayers because their faith has been shaped by past disappointments, but God is teaching his people to believe again with boldness. He is calling believers to lift their eyes from what is possible and fix them on what only he can do. Faith is not just believing for an answer. It is believing in the character of the one who gives the answer. It is trusting that his timing is better, his wisdom is deeper, and his ways are higher than human reasoning can reach. Spiritual readiness is the third key, because God never pours the weight of his glory into an unprepared vessel. When heaven releases something greater than you prayed for, it requires a heart that has been emptied of pride, unbelief, and distraction. Spiritual readiness means aligning your thoughts with the Word, your desires with his will, and your actions with the leading of the Spirit. It means making room for God by removing the things that compete for your focus, your affection, and your obedience. A spiritually ready person is not perfect, but surrendered. They have cultivated sensitivity to God's voice so that when he speaks, they recognize him instantly. They have trained their spirit to respond quickly, without hesitation, without arguing, without delaying. Often, people pray for blessings that their current level of spiritual maturity cannot sustain. God withholds certain answers not because he has forgotten, but because he is preparing the believer to receive more than they asked for. When your spirit becomes ready, heaven releases what was held for the right moment. Many blessings are timed blessings, and God orchestrates them so that they arrive when the heart is strengthened enough to steward them well. Preparation is not punishment, it is divine protection. God knows the weight of the future you prayed for, and he equips you before he releases it. Expectation invites the promise, faith holds the promise, and readiness protects the promise. When these three forces work together, the believer becomes positioned for divine overflow. God is not limited by your past, your circumstances, or your resources. He is only looking for a vessel that is expectant, faith-filled, and prepared. Something greater than your prayer requests is being shaped in the unseen realm. The breakthrough you whispered in your quiet times is being multiplied, expanded, elevated by the hand of God. What you prayed for was small compared to what heaven is arranging. God hears every prayer, but he answers from the dimension of his greatness, not the limitation of human imagination. When expectation rises, faith deepens, and readiness matures. The believer steps into a spiritual place where God can release more than they ever thought to ask for.